What is up, guys? Today we are going to be talking about the best teams to target in FPL in Game Week 3, looking at the best fixture runs and the best players from the teams with said best fixture runs. And remember, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. We just hit 200 subs. We've got 800 more to go until we get 1,000. We're pretty much there already. So yeah, guys, make sure you're doing that. Also, make sure you're liking the video. Thank you very much. All right, first off, we're going to be looking at the third best fixture run in the Premier League from Game Week 3. That is Liverpool, who were actually in first place from Game Week 1. They have played two pretty good games. The next six from Game Week 3 to 8 aren't too bad either. They're still in the top three, but they're not number one. They do have a sort of hard game playing against Man United in Game Week 3, but then again, Liverpool have been known to absolutely batter Man United. So you never know, that could easily be like a green fixture instead of a red. But typically, you'd give that a red one. So I'm giving it a red. The rest is pretty much just greens and greys. You know, the worst fixture is semi-decent at worst, okay? So they're all very good from Game Week 4 to Game Week 8, and even Game Week 3 could be good. Especially Game Week 4 and 5, playing home to Bournemouth, then home to Forest, and even playing away to Wolves, with Wolves being quite stinky at the moment. It's a great 3-game run, which you want to be owning at least one Liverpool player for. Now, if we're looking at the most notable players from this team, obviously Salah is number one. But with Salah, it's kind of like you either own him or you don't. You probably are going to find it hard with whatever team you have if you don't have Salah to bring him in, unless you're going to wild card, which I wouldn't recommend. So I'm going to be looking at any other Liverpool asset apart from Salah for ones that you should be targeting in this team. And Salah is actually fourth for expected points in this team anyway. The three people above him is Trent, Diaz, and Jota. They've all got more expected goal involvement, so maybe you don't need to spend 12.5 million on Salah. You could cover them with these guys instead. First off, the player with the most expected points in the game over these first two game weeks, apart from Haaland, is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, most of that comes from expected clean sheets because Liverpool have been really good defensively. Playing against a couple easy teams is half what you expect, but they've been known to concede first against any team in the league. So it's definitely an improvement from last season. What also brings his expected points up is his expected goal involvements, guys. As you can see right here, he's averaging an expected goal involvement per 90, which is insane. If he stops becoming an early sub, he could be in loads and loads of assists. Getting 0.9 expected assists per 90 is insanely high. It's a lot higher than any other player in the game. Trent owners have actually been just quite unlucky in general to not have a return yet. Next up, we're going to be looking at Diaz because his expected data is better than Jota, even though Jota is a slightly more popular player because he's playing striker. Diaz is the one that's more involved in all the Liverpool attacks. He is the most involved Liverpool attacker. His expected goal involvements are once again insanely high. And if I was looking to get a Liverpool player in my team, he's the one I'd be going for. Reason being is that with Trent, his expected assists are high, but he's been let down by his teammates finishing. And Luis Diaz, he's got the high expected goals and the high expected assists. And with the expected goals, he can actually rely upon himself instead of relying on teammates that can't finish, which is why I think I'd put him slightly above Trent, because also he's a lot easier to go for. Getting a 7.5 midfielder in your team is a lot easier than getting a 7 million defender in your team. So Diaz is definitely the number one player you should be going for if you want to attack that Liverpool fixture run. Get him in your team. You could sell Eze for him if you have 0.5 mil spare, but Eze is quite good already. If you've got an 8 million midfielder like Gordon, I would 100% recommend selling him for Luis Diaz, even though Gordon himself isn't too bad. But the Liverpool attack and that expected data, you just cannot ignore. There is that risk of, rotation in that Liverpool attack, but nowhere near as bad as last season. We've seen the first two game weeks starting with a front three of Salah, Jota, and Diaz. And because they're playing very well, I can't see why Slot would ever change that around. I mean, I guess he'd rotate the team when there's European football, but right now, it seems pretty solid. He's going to be going with Luis Diaz, Jota, and Salah for the foreseeable future. Next up, guys, we do have Chelsea in second place with the second best fixture run, although I would argue they are tied with Liverpool in the next 6 games. It's just that Chelsea's tough game comes in game week 8. The difference with Chelsea is, Chelsea don't have a lot of plays to go for, whereas Liverpool have quite a few. Now, Chelsea did have Madueke score a hat-trick, and right away you'd think, yeah, why not go for Madueke? But he only had 0.5 expected goals for that hat-trick, and his place in the starting 11 isn't even guaranteed. I mean, don't get me wrong. It could be now he scored a hat-trick, but there's no guarantee. I mean, looking at Nkunku, we all thought he was nailed, and he ended up being anything but nailed with 2 points in 2 games. We've all sold him. I've sold him. You guys probably have too. Mudryk was a letdown on the left wing. Pedro Neto could see himself starting there more often, but once again, Pedro Neto hasn't started a game yet. At striker, Nicholas Jackson could be a good idea. That's why I've got him written down there in the bottom left. I would say he's the second most reliable option aside from Cole Palmer. But Jackson didn't even start in game week 1. So what makes us think he's even going to start in game week 3 or 4 or 5, you know? He did well in game week 2. He's got the good data, so I'll put him in there. But ultimately, I wouldn't recommend any of you get Nicholas Jackson at this moment in time. The only player from Chelsea I would recommend you guys get is Cole Palmer. But even then, at the same time, I wouldn't recommend any of you sell Saka or Son or Salah to get Palmer in your team, because I do still think he's arguably the worst premium, the worst player above 10 mil. Don't get me wrong, he's not miles worse than the others, but looking at his expected data here, it's the lowest out of all the premiums. His predicted points are really high, his expected goals are okay, and as you can see, his expected assists are very low. But once again, because Madueke had low expected goals for his hat-trick, Cole Palmer assisting all 3 of those, his expected assists are also going to be quite low. So his 3 assists there, while it's a lot and it's a really good score on points, it's maybe not the most reliable thing you can expect week in, week out. I do think Cole Palmer is only going to be valid in the future if he keeps getting those penalties like he did last season. So I would be sceptical when buying any Chelsea player whatsoever. And while I do think they have the best fixture run from game week 3 to 8, I think it's best to wait at least one more game week before you make a move on any of these Chelsea players. But yeah, that's all from Chelsea. We're now going to be looking at the number 1 team for fixtures in FPL. And if you guys pay attention to FPL, or you take quite an interest in it, you already know who's coming up. But it's Aston Villa here, guys. Looking at these next 6 fixtures, 4 greens, then 2 greys, not a single red fixture in sight. And with the next 4 being all green, yeah, you definitely want to own at least 1 Aston Villa player, if not 2 or 3. A triple up would not be a bad idea at all. Obviously, we've got the main problem of no good data to look at for Aston Villa. Obviously, Ollie Watkins has got a few expected goals. I'll show you guys now. He's doing all right with it. But even then, it's not insanely high. And a lot of people will be considering selling Isak for Watkins in game week 3. Even I'm considering it because I've got the money for it. But I'm not 100% sure I'm going to do it yet, because I don't know if he's going to be worth it. Against Arsenal, he did miss a couple easy chances that he could have put away and got a couple goals, in which case I would have definitely gone for him. And with Isak, I know a lot of you are thinking, should you sell Isak for Watkins? And to be honest, there's no right or wrong answer. Isak hasn't been good, but Newcastle as a club have not been good either. That's kind of why Isak's data is low, because he's not had the chance to do anything. But you never know, in the next 2 games, Isak could do really well. But we're not here to talk about Isak anyway, guys. Back to Aston Villa. Like I said, Ollie Watkins, decent player, definitely the best asset from Aston Villa without a question. Now, Aston Villa have been playing a front 3, sort of. I guess John McGinn is kind of an advanced player, but the 2 wingers are Morgan Rogers at 5 mil, which is a steal for a starting attacker in Aston Villa, and Leon Bailey at 6.5. Now, these guys on paper are going to be great to own because they've got great fixtures, playing for a good team, and they're cheap. The problem is both of them have really low expected goal involvements, and that's partly down to the fact they've played 2 hard games in game week 1 and 2, but it kind of means we don't know which is the best one to go for. The fact they're both on par with each other at the moment leads me to believe Morgan Rogers is the best one to own because he's 1.5 mil cheaper, and he has played both full 90 minutes for Aston Villa, which is insanely promising. Leon Bailey could turn out to be the better option for 1.5 mil extra and a great replacement for Nkunku, but if you're still deciding on an Nkunku replacement, you've probably, missed that boat. The ship has sailed on getting Leon Bailey because Nkunku is now 6.4 million and Leon Bailey is 6.5. So yeah, it really is a sticky one because the Aston Villa defence has not been that good either. But once again, 2 hard fixtures. Can you blame them? So guys, I would recommend, if you want to get Aston Villa players, Watkins should be your number 1 target, even if you need to sell Isak. But if you want to hold Isak, maybe go for Leon Bailey or Morgan Rogers instead. That is also a really good idea. Just go with your gut feeling. Like I said, I've showed you the Watkins data and I've showed you the Rogers data, so you can kind of make your mind up a bit for yourself. Just remember, Morgan Rogers will save you a lot of money and maybe help you develop your attack elsewhere, because that 1.5 mil you could get from selling someone like Nkunku to Morgan Rogers or any other 6.5 mil mid, it's a lot of money in the bank. The final option you could do is not buy any Aston Villa player until they've played Leicester. Then we've got more data to look at to see who actually is the best to go for. That's what I might even do, to be honest. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Point is, monitor the Aston Villa players. Watkins, Leon Bailey and Rogers are the players to look out for. but you may need to wait another game week to see who really is the best player to go for. Anyway, guys, that's the teams to target in FPL, the best players from those teams, the best fixture runs. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Everton was close to being in this team, but Everton's assets are so bad that I just didn't put them in here. They're not good, okay? If you guys did enjoy the video or you did make it this far, thank you very much. Please consider subscribing. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.